His opponent is playing Enchantress. James Wagner is the Enchantress player, or Wager, perhaps. And he has 3 copies of Solitary Confinement in his main deck. Solitary Confinement is a card that is extremely difficult for creature-based decks to beat. And Dennis's deck has 0 ways to remove an enchantment from play between deck and sideboard. His sideboard has Aethersworn Canis, it has Jotun Grunt, Mindbreak Trap, Orum's Chant, Pyroblast, Red Blast, and Surgical Extraction, but he has absolutely nothing that can actually remove an enchantment from play once it resolves. So James and Dennis will be in a pretty much pure race here to see who can actually get their important permanents down or kill the other player. So looks like, I'm guessing James is mulliganing here. It looks like he's a bit disappointed and shuffling up right now. So that's James on the right-hand side of your screen playing Enchantress, Dennis on the left playing Boros. Enchantress is a deck that we see off and on at the Star City Games Open Series in Legacy. It's a very, very powerful deck when it gets going, though it's a deck that can be pretty fragile if it doesn't draw its important combo pieces, those being the Enchantresses, or they manage to get killed. So there's a lot of powerful cards in James' deck here for this matchup. Elephant Grass is a cheap enchantment that can keep Dennis's creatures from attacking. The previously mentioned Solitary Confinement makes it very, very difficult for Dennis, even impossible for Dennis to win. And then James also has Leyline of Sanctity in his sideboard, which can make the burn plan be pretty much impossible to ever get down. So, one thing that's curious about James' deck, he only has 1 copy of Enlightened Tutor. So, he does have 4 copies of Sterling Grove, which is a similar sort of effect, but a bit more expensive. And he can go and search for those surgical extraction, or rather those solitary confinements to protect himself, but he can't do it quite as quickly as if he had the full tutor package. So James, looking at his 6-card hand with a pretty distraught look in his face, Dennis gives him the thumbs up, and James starts it off. So we have a Plains in play for James, and Plains is the worst land in his deck. Can't cast his Wild Growths, can't cast his Utopia Sprawls. Looks like he has both of his Plains in his hand. I'm not sure I agree with this keep. He really needs a green source to do anything with his deck. So Flagstones and Step Links for Dennis starts off his beatdown, and James with another Plain. Oh no, that's a Caracas. He cannot cast anything. I certainly would have mulliganed to 5 this game. James is really not in a position to actually do anything with just white mana. So Dennis with his Step Links, and we'll see how much damage the Step Links does. There's a Flagstones already.
Such a scary moment with the Step Links against you.
Step Links is a scary, scary creature.
I mean, it's like an Urnum Djinn for 1 sometimes.
Yeah, I remember when that guy cost green and 3, and now he costs white mana.
I mean, obviously you can't count on him, but I mean, could you ever really count on Urnum? He always would make something go wrong.
Yeah, he would always betray you. Unless, of course, your deck just didn't have forests.
Only 2 damage from the Step Links. One mountain.
That's a disappointing Step Link.
Making himself much, much weaker. Here we have, oh boy.
And Zekdar Shrine comes down. James, I think, still with...
what does that do?
Reading the Zekdar Shrine, okay.
You know, there's no shame in reading cards in Legacy.
And I actually think it's very important to make sure you understand how your opponent's cards work entirely. A lot of players, for fear of looking foolish, don't want to pick up their opponent's cards and read them. That's a mistake.
I think that fear of looking bad is one of the biggest things that will hold you back as a Magic player.
Absolutely. So James manages to find his green source here. He has a Windswept Heath. I'm going to guess he's getting basic Forest. His opponent's deck looks like one that might be able to punish non-basics. So gets a sweet Beta Forest.
That is a very sweet Forest. I would wager a guess as to how much that card is worth. However, the last time that I guessed on a card's value, I was off by several $100s.
Did you guess that the Forest was worth $512?
No, I guessed how much a Beta Underground Sea was worth.
Isn't it I was worth something like $800 nowadays?
It's worth something like that.
Something gross. And Argothian Enchantress.
Argothian Enchantress is one of my favorite cards of all time.
Starts things off.
Untargetable 0-1 Enchantress. The Enchantress effect, of course, is every time that you cast an enchantment, you get to draw a card.
It's important to note that is whenever you play, the wording on the actual card is successfully play, which has been errated to just be play.
Yes, because at the time, successfully play had a meaning that got removed by the ways that the rules changed right around, I think, 10th edition?
Yeah,
maybe it was 6th edition.
Was it when interrupts were removed? Or was
it might have been when interrupts were removed.
Although, were interrupts removed?
Interrupts were removed shortly after High Tide stopped being an extended deck.
So it was Saga. So yeah, because this is a Saga card, or at least a Saga block card, so.
The old days. Goblin Guide.
So the guide comes down, and we're going to see Zektar Shrine, Guide, and Steplinks all crack in for about 1 million. I think that's an approximation of the amount of damage it'll be doing, and a pretty accurate one.
Dennis Taylor.
Fetches, I believe.
Yep.
For a pretty plateau.
That looks like a altered plateau. Is that like the rare plateau art?
Zektar Shrine's not coming in just yet.
Yeah. You know how there's the alternate art from way back then of plateau? Is that the alternate
actual
art?
No, that's I believe that's just an altered one.
Okay, I was thinking it was an altered actual art one, which would be incredible. But we have 1 extra mana, 2 extra mana. Oh no, he's shard volleying away his flagstones, which means that it is going to mean Zektar Shrine and Steplinks. Steplinks will be a 6, Zektar Shrine will be a 7/1. That is going to be 15 damage coming in, not counting the shard.
And the Enchantress just has to chump block. So, as I was saying before, Boros can do a lot of damage very fast. Steplinks is a brutal creature.
I actually think that Brozek's Boros style of play is the fastest attacking deck that might have ever been made.
I think that may be true. I mean, if you're not counting like things like the existence of Fire Blast and stuff like that would allow you to
I think it's actually faster than the Fire Blast Ball Lightning does.
It might be. I mean, this is about a bazillion damage on turn 3.
Yeah, turn 3, we're looking at 6 from the Steplinks, 2 from the Goblin Guide, and 7 from
I suppose if he really wanted to, he could just have Fire Blast. Shrine. He does have Fire Blast in his deck.
So we're talking about right now, he's coming in for 15 plus the 3. 18 damage is what he's representing this turn.
Yeah, that Enchantress is just getting in the way.
It's just it's gonna kill the, he's, block the Guide. Guide says, is that a land on top there?
Oblivion Ring.
Oh, okay, that's very, very slow to the party.
So,
he's doing the math. Can I afford?
If he does not block Steplinks, he is dead. So that is not the goal. That is not the general role of Argothian Enchantress in Enchantress is to block. But here it is having to do it. So
take 9.
9 damage puts James Wagner down to 5 life.
I like this deck.
That is wow. That is brutal.
Go, he says. James with nothing
right,
much going.
I guess I'll draw this Oblivion Ring.
Okay, Oblivion Ring. I'm not sure how many cards Dennis Taylor has left in his hand.
He has not many.
We're going to see a Wild Growth on a Plains here, and then he might just Oblivion Ring the Steplinks since I go. I mean, I don't know if he's got a better play. I can't quite make his hand out.
It looks like a
I see an Enchantress's Presence, City of Solitude.
A Oblivion Ring.
There's the O-Ring. Takes out the Guide. He says, I don't think you have a land.
Yeah. Does Dennis have any cards left?
He has no cards. Oh, no, he does.
No,
he does.
Okay, they're set aside.
I see a Chain Lightning and a Fetch Land, I think.
That's enough.
Oh,
no,
it's
just
a
Chain Lightning
Flagstone.
and a land is enough. So
take 2.
Chain you.
Take 3.
And there it is. So Dennis Taylor wins a blisteringly fast game 1 with
That's awesome.
Wow. That was brutal.
That was really awesome.
I had said when we sat down that I felt like James was pretty heavily favored in this matchup.
I think he is.
I still think he is. But in that game, he kept a hand that, after mulliganing, he kept a hand that really wasn't able to do anything until he drew that green source on turn 3.
Look at the sideboard. Look at the sideboard.
The Leyline of Sanctity?
4 Leyline of Sanctity.
Yeah, there's some powerful cards in James' sideboard. Leyline of Sanctity is going to make those burn spells useless.
I think Ruined Halo actually is also valuable.
I agree with you. He has a lot of cards in his deck that he can just take out. He has the City of Solitude for sure, Blood Moon for sure. He probably wants to keep in Sigil.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if that's how you win.
Maybe he doesn't even need to bother to have Sigil in his deck. He could take out Sigil. Looking at Dennis's sideboard, he has nothing.
I'm not sure about that either.
Aethersworn Canonist actually is a real card here.
Aethersworn Canonist is real.
Yeah, Aethersworn Canonist is actually a very relevant card for the Enchantress deck, which often needs to play multiple cards in a turn to really sort of get things going.
And I kind of wonder if you bring in the one Mindbreak trap, because what you can do...
That's interesting.
Like, oftentimes, one of the things that the Enchantress decks have is, like, some kind of finisher card. And they can be under enough pressure from Brozek, the Brozek deck, that perhaps that would just be like, never mind that, Emrakul. You're removed from the game with this Mindbreak trap.
Yeah, it could be enough to do it.
I think Aethersworn Canonist is the real answer, though.
Yeah, he can take out his Path to Exiles, and bring in those Aethersworn Canonists. He may. What else do you think he might look to take out?
I like everything else in his deck.
I don't know that he really wants Ranger.
Ranger is slow.
Ranger's very slow. It's not the sort of card that's.
There we go. Ranger.
Going to win you this game.
Ranger is slow.
Yeah, I would take out Path to Exile and Ranger. So that's 4 cards.
That's
that
4 Canonists.
lets you bring in 4 Canonists.
That might be enough and not anything else.
I could consider bringing in an Orum's Chant just to have a breakthrough turn. You know, if you're able to get a reasonable amount of stuff into play and then just chant him once during his upkeep.
That could be it.
That may be enough to just seal the game.
Yeah, a poor man's Time Walk.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing a deck that doesn't have any way to interact with what the Enchantress deck's actually doing. So if you can just stop them from doing things for one turn, that might be enough to win.
Okay, so we're going to see what happens here. The conjecture on cards other than Aethersworn Canonist, I mean, I think definitely Canonist, and I think that you've definitely convinced me, Brian, about Orum's Chant. So let's see what ends up happening, though. They're still finishing up their board, it looks like. Taking a long time. As I said before, I think yesterday, one of the things that I like to make sure happens is I do like to enforce the actual 3-minute rule for presenting the deck between games. One of the things about it is that, particularly in complex matchups, it can take a very long time for, a game to finish. And if people are taking over the 3 minutes for sideboarding, you can end up eating away a good 10 minutes of a game if you're not actually being vigilant for that. James Wagner or Wager. It looks like it's James Wager, actually. James Wager will be on the play here. Enchantress is a deck that primarily kind of stays in the format, I think, because people kind of love it, but it hasn't had a real breakout performance in a while. It's really, really cool when you're actually able to make every single card of yours nearly every single card of yours allow you to draw a card. It's sort of like having the enchantment recycle in play all the time. I feel like Dennis Taylor is a kind of a local player, I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like I've definitely seen him at events in this area before. James Wager, not sure if he's played, and I don't really recognize James from any of the events that are around here. Emrakul the Aeon's Torn is definitely a really interesting choice for Enchantress, because a lot of times what can happen is you can get into a position where you'll end up decking yourself, and you'll have out so much stuff going on, but not enough time to actually end up doing what you need to finish a game out. And Emrakul can be discarded to Solitary Confinement. Then you can continue to rebuild up all kinds of spells with your Enchantresses, and Emrakul means that you'll never have to worry about that going wrong, as well as just casting the Emrakul at some point and taking a game over. Still waiting to actually start this game, too. 61 cards for James Wager. I'm not necessarily a huge enemy of 61 cards. I think you should try to be 60 cards almost all the time, but there are rational reasons to be 61. One of them is if you simply do not have enough time to figure out what the right card is to take out. Given time, you might figure out what that card is, but I do think it's better to be 61 than take out a card that's wrong.
There are types of decks that you really want the additional sort of tutor target or whatever that you don't want to cut, and Enchantress is one of those.
Yeah, but at the same time, Enchantress also fits the mold of cards decks that want to be 60 because of the heavy reliance on
particular
Enchantress.
Sort of cards.
Yeah.
So James actually has a pre-game effect with Leyline of Sanctity and a turn 1 Wild Growth on his Savannah.
And there's the Enchantress, Argothian Enchantress. And says go. Figure of Destiny from Dennis.
And James has Moat in hand.
Yikes.
Moat and Leyline is actually just a game. The game is over if Moat and Leyline are in play.
That is 100% true.
So this could be a turn 2 kill, or turn 3 kill.
You know, I have played, not Enchantress, but I've played enchantment-based decks in Legacy before, and you can get the turn 2 kill even if the game is still being played.
Yep. So Dennis, Goblin Guide. And this will give James an opportunity, if he does not hit a land on top of his deck, he can actually use his fetch land to go find a land and give him another chance at it to be able to play his Moat next turn.
In comes Figure
So
and Goblin Guide.
Flips.
Words of War.
Not a land. That's definitely should get fetched away.
What does that do? I want to read it. What you can do is you can replace your draw and turn it into a shock
Yeah, it
for
costs
the cost of 1
mana.
mana.
And if you would draw a card, you can instead do 2 damage to a target. It's a card that allows the Enchantress deck to just kill the opponent with triggers from Enchantresses.
Do you know what card I like better than Words of War? Words of Wind.
You can just lock your opponent.
Yeah, you lock your opponent out.
You can incidentally kill them with something else by the time they have no permanence.
I think Dan Bach called it Scrib Sprite Recursion.
Okay.
It's like, you don't really actually kill them with anything that matters. It's just they're done. Scrib Sprite got them.
They're just going to be dead. Oh, actually, Figure of Destiny, as was pointed out on Twitter, if Dennis can get to 8 mana or whatever it is, he can give Figure flying.
That is absolutely fair.
So he's not quite locked out. He's just in a world of hurt.
It's not a hard lock. It's just so close to a hard lock. I don't know if you care.
Yeah. So James draws
That looks like
Sterling Grove. So
that's an Enchantress's
He's
Presence.
going to want to test Enchantress's Presence, which
draw
is going to draw him a card.
Draw 1, and then future enchantments will be draw 2.
And once again, taking a look at that card. And his draw was...
I see an Enchantress's Presence, a Moat, a Sterling Grove, and I can't make out the other 3 cards.
So while James may have
cards.
that Moat in his hand, he is lacking the land to play it. So if Dennis can get in 16 more damage before he finds a land, which is not inconceivable with the pace that we've seen Dennis's deck so far.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, not conceivable with with that play though.
Just 4 and then there's that pesky
Words of War once again.
Sitting on top of the deck.
Take 4. James is now down to 12. Actually, down to 11, I believe.
So,
maybe 12. Maybe 12.
So for those of you who are not familiar with how the Enchantress deck works, the idea behind Enchantress is that you play these cards: Argothian Enchantress and Enchantress. Ooh, wow! Interrupting my explanation for a moment. Ghost Quarter takes out the Wild Growth land, putting James back down. Wow! If I were Dennis, I would have waited until James's upkeep to play that. Force him to after his draw step to force him to draw the Words of War.
Yeah.
But so he has no chance to draw a land this turn. But regardless, this is a major play. This keeps James off of the mana to play any of his expensive enchantments in his hand.
Now, amusingly, if you care about card advantage rather than just mana in play, there's
the Aethersworn Canonist.
Oh, Aethersworn Canonist, keeping the deck from just going off.
So James draws and does not appear to be a land just yet.
He's going to draw 2 cards, though.
So he's going to play Sterling Grove.
There it is. Draw.
Oh, that's Ruined Halo. Okay.
Ooh, wow. That's actually very good.
Yep. So I'm curious what he's going to name.
Something that deals damage. Figure of Destiny seems like the most rational one to name.
Figure not only locks out his opponent from being able to get...
Is that an Elephant Grass in his hand? It is an Elephant Grass in his hand. Ooh. Elephant Grass, green for an enchant world, I believe. Cumulative upkeep 1, black creatures cannot attack, and otherwise all creatures require 2 mana to be able to attack.
It's the original Propaganda.
That card is awesome. I definitely played that at Grand Prix Columbus in the main deck.
So...
about 2 Grand Prix Columbuses ago.
So it looks like James did draw another land off of that Enchantress trigger. So if he is able to get to his next turn,
Yep.
which it looks like he will, he'll be able to play Moat. And the combination of Moat, Leyline of Sanctity, and Rune Halo should be enough to actually just lock the game.
That is it. We said it before, but this time it's true.
Yeah. This time, I believe Dennis is left with no way to win once that Moat hits play. And this game, we've actually seen pretty much just how much more powerful the draws that the Boros deck gets that include Step Links are than the ones that don't. Step Links dealt so much damage last game. And this game, if Dennis had played a turn 1 Step Links, I believe James would be dead.
We see a second ley line being sacrificed or given to the Chrome Mox.
Moat you.
Moat.
And now, I wonder if Dennis is going to play this out, or if he's going to just scoop it up and save time for the next one. I imagine he would not want to give away the information that he has no way to beat this. So, Rune Halo is naming Figure of Destiny, so the combination of Rune Halo, Moat, and Leyline of Sanctity means that I don't believe Dennis Taylor can do any more damage to James Wagner.
Here's what he can do right now. He can, as long as he feels like there's enough time on the clock, scout his opponent.
Right.
That's what he can do.
And with those Either Sworn Canists in play, it can be pretty difficult for his opponent to. Solitary Confinement. That's unnecessary, but James doesn't necessarily know that. His opponent could have
a Seal of Cleansing, Disenchant, Lean and Relic Warder. I mean, there's a number of things. Aura of Silence. Who knows?
Right.
Dennis draws. If I were Dennis, I would just basically probably try to pantomime like I had something in my deck that I could do.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
That's another thing. If you just scoop to that board, we've been talking about one of the themes of this weekend has been the desire not to give too much information to people.
Yep.
And if you just scoop straight up to the board, and let's say you don't sideboard, what that tells me is you have no answers to this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that I completely agree that it's important not to give that information away. We see the Ranger of Eos come down, not really particularly relevant, just going to thin his deck and let him draw things that aren't going to do anything.
And we see Solitary Confinement. He discards a card to it. Hard to say which one. This extra Enchantress's presence isn't something I need, he says. He takes his die off of his deck. His play reminder not to just draw. Formerly something that wasn't legal, these days is a legal play. Casts a Utopia Sprawl. Draws 2 cards, and he's going to have to say go unless he casts an artifact.
Artifact. So, yeah, we're basically...
Lands, no artifact, go. His artifact's in his deck, and the reason he can only do this is because of Aether and Sworn Canist. He's got 2 Chrome Moxes.
Yep. So it looks like James has drawn the Sigil of the Empty Throne, and that will give him a win condition that will not take forever. One of the issues that we have seen with Enchantress in the Star City Games Legacy Open series in the past is that it's a deck that can take a long time to win.
Absolutely.
The games, while they can often get to positions where it is unlikely to be able to lose, it can certainly take forever to get there and end up with more draws than wins.
One thing I don't like about James Wager's deck list is I don't see a Karmic Justice between main and sideboard. And in Enchantress, one of the things I really like is having a card like Karmic Justice to be able to really punish people that happen to have a card like Pernicious Deed or anything like that from being able to really hurt you.
And for those who are not familiar with just what Karmic Justice might be, could you explain things for everyone?
Absolutely. Karmic Justice is an incredible little enchantment for white and 2. And what it reads is, if your opponent destroys one of your permanents...
Mm-hmm. Non-creature permanents.
Non-creature permanents, thank you. You can choose and destroy one of theirs.
Yep.
So if you Pernicious Deed, let's say away 4 cards. You control the Pernicious Deed, they control the Karmic Justice. you get to choose, as the Karmic Justice owner, 4 of their best permanents after the deed has resolved to destroy.
Yeah, it's a pretty brutal effect. Looks like James is just like, well, come on. Can you possibly win?
Honestly, show me the... has he already shown him these? There it is.
Yeah,
There's the
Sigil's
sigil.
in play.
Sigil's in play. Okay.
All right, and Dennis does concede. Looks like James talks him into scooping. To save time.
If there's enough time on the clock, and there appears to be over 20 minutes left on the clock, what I would do if I were Dennis is I would just keep playing and say,
agree
like,
with you.
I would be like, maybe I can get out of it. And he has no outs.
I would play it out for sure. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's not stalling. As long as he's playing at a reasonable pace, he's not giving the opponent the information that he has no way to get out of the situation, and he is managing to gain more information about what his opponent does have in his deck.
We go to the sideboard again, and
we didn't really see too much in that game that either player is going to change things up. Dennis still doesn't have anything.
Dennis was checking the clock there. He wanted to see how much time he had left, and it looks to me he's changing 2 of his sideboard cards.
Okay.
Perhaps for an Orm's Chant?
Maybe he wants that Orm's Chant. Maybe he wants Surgical Extraction. I don't know. Surgical Extraction is a card that I don't think I would bring in here, but it's a card that I think a lot of people like against any sort of combo type deck. Even though I can't imagine a way of a card actually getting to his yard that it's not like James is relying on something like a Squee to fuel his solitary confinements.
What do you think about bringing in Jotun Grunts as just a potential beater?
I think that's totally reasonable. I think you need to win the early game, and otherwise you're dead.
I mean, I don't actually mind if Jotun Grunts comes down, swings once, and dies.
Yeah, I mean, it was a Fire Blast.
Yeah. I mean, he's already running the Fire Blast anyway. Why not have a couple more? Jotun Grunts is one of my favorite cards. I haven't played it in a couple years, but I really like it.
Yeah, Jotun Grunt is a particularly powerful card in a deck like Boros, in letting the deck keep up with things like Tarmogoyf and things like Knight of the Reliquary, because otherwise Tarmogoyf and Knight of the Reliquary are just going to outclass everything that you play. And Jotun Grunt, in addition to just being a 4/4 for 2, manages to keep those creatures under control.
Absolutely. And there's
also very good against Dredge.
Yeah, random matchups. I remember having a conversation with Owen Turtenwald a long while ago, where he said very derisively, "How can you possibly prepare for everything?" And you don't have to.
Owen Turtenwald saying something derisively. I don't believe.
Yeah, and I don't think that you can prepare for everything directly, but you can indirectly prepare for things. Like a card like Jotun Grunts, it has multiple uses. It's a card that can actually make you say, oh, okay, you're a graveyard-based deck, I've got an answer. Or you're a deck that has other stuff going on, I have an answer. Or, you know what, you are just a very fast lockout deck. I'm going to try to speed myself up. It's versatile. Right. Versatility of an application is something you can really do in Legacy.
Yeah, I mean, one of the very important things in a format that's very broad is being sure that the cards that you are playing are applicable in a wide variety of situations. Cards like Spell Pierce that we saw out of Edgar Flores' sideboard, for instance. Spell Pierce is good against decks with non-creature spells that
Absolutely.
they want to resolve.
I mean, what is a non-creature spell? Do you know of any in Legacy?
I've thought of a couple, but
I could probably name a few thousand spells you might see that would be hit by a Spell Pierce.
All right, go.
Do you want me to go all the way through it? Okay. Sylvan Library, Lightning Bolt, Fire Blast, Careful Study.
All right, stop.
Oh, okay. You like what I started with?
It's a good choice.
Okay, so I've got a question for you.
All
this
right.
is a kind of a rhetorical question. Let's pretend that you have no way to win and you're casting Demonic Consultation. What do you name?
Ace of Spades.
I name Blaze of Glory.
Okay, good choice. So Dennis Taylor is on the play in Game 3. Leads off with Mountain. I'm guessing we're going to see a Goblin Guide.
Goblin Guide would be his best opener here.
And there it is.
And let us see the
Goblin
preview
Guide.
he gets. I can't tell.
A
Leyline.
The one down farther than it would like to be, Leyline of Sanctity.
Wah, wah, wah. It will still be a valuable card to cast once he gets to 4 mana.
It will,
and he does have a lot of mana acceleration.
Though, who knows if he'll make it.
Yeah, he might not live to that long.
And
now, Elephant Grass or Wild Growth?
Wild Growth. Elephant Grass does have cumulative upkeep.
I know.
So I would be. I mean, he could just play Elephant Grass to stay alive.
I have done that where you turn 1 Elephant Grass and just use it as like a little bit of life gain to get a couple of turns into the game. In comes the Goblin Guide showing a Utopia Sprawl.
So still no free land from that guide yet. And no Ghost Quarter, but a
Zektar Shrine. Is that a... that is absolutely the Flagstones of Trokire.
Yes. So James draws, and does he not have another land?
I think I see a Plains in there, like 3 in.
There? Yeah, okay, there's a Plains.
That's my favorite Plains from that set.
We're going to see Plains and... Is this an
3 mana. What are we going to see?
Enchantress, and maybe, is this Enchantress and Elephant Grass?
I think
that would be very powerful.
Enchantress and Utopia Sprawl.
Okay.
Now remember...
Is that Enchant the Forest, or is it Enchant any land?
I believe it's Enchant Forest.
Okay. That's a dangerous spot to be in against the deck with 4 copies of Ghost Quarter.
And remember how Ghost Quarter actually made it a game last game.
Yeah.
And we see a draw.
Is there?
Looks like a mountain, I think.
If Dennis does have a Ghost Quarter, he may be able to close this game out. And there it is.
There it is.
Ghost Quarter puts a counter on the shrine.
Oh, boy.
Destroys the forest with 2 enchantments.
You can wait. You can wait on that there, Ghost Quarter.
You can, but there's not too much reason to.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's not like he's going to get Hornet Stung here.
You're right. You're right.
So
Dennis actually still needs to do something.
Yeah, he's still not putting a ton of pressure on. It looks like I believe that's a Jotun Grunt in his hand.
The grunts.
So he is going to attack with that Goblin Guide, revealing
Wild
Growth, which is a very good card for James right here. It's going to effectively be a land drop as well as a card from the Enchantress. It looks like James has... Is that a Caracas in his hand?
It is a Caracas.
Interesting. So Jotun Grunt comes down. And then a draw. So James gets to play his Wild Growth on that forest.
On the Plains.
Or rather on the Plains, yes. Draws his card. Draws... Is that another Wild Growth? So he can play Caracas, play Wild Growth on that, draw another card, and that leaves him with three total mana, which would allow him to cast if he has a Presence or a Solitary Confinement.
There's
it's a Sarah Sanctum. I did not see that in his hand.
Sarah Sanctum, white mana for every enchantment you control.
Wild Growth on that, and I believe he is going to draw a card and cast a 4-cost spell.
1.
So 1, 2,
3,
4 mana from that. And that Leyline comes down.
Leyline and draw a card.
Ooh, wow. So James has quite a bit of mana going, and I think Dennis is hoping he has another Ghost Quarter somewhere waiting for him.
Yeah, Dennis is in real trouble right now.
So if James can shut down Dennis's meager offense, because a Jotun Grunt and a... well, actually, how much damage is that?
That's 6, 13.
13. So if...
And a Fire Blast. No, Fire Blast can't do it.
Fire Blast doesn't do it. If he has
Reckless Charge or a Goblin Guide.
Well, there is the enchanters that can possibly block.
Yes.
So Jotun Grunt gets rid of 2 land. So James is actually still in a rough spot here. He actually needs something that can stop Dennis's attacking creatures.
I think I see a Fire Blast in Dennis's hand.
That's not going to do it. There's a Leyline.
Yeah. I'm just like trying to say what I can see.
Sure. Okay. No, fetch land. So Zektar Shrine is going to get in there this turn. That's 9. That's 13 damage. Oh, figure. Do we have a Reckless Charge?
A charge? It's actually a Fire Blast, a Chain Lightning, I think.
Okay, so just pre-combat figure. So James is going to need a moat. Maybe an Elephant Grass will do it if he has time to block.
Solitary Confinement.
Confinement. Yeah, he's going to need something to get him out of this. He's taking 13 damage this turn, assuming he does not block. And I don't think he can afford to block. So, boom. Pop the shrine.
Oh, wait, that might be a charge and a Fire Blast.
Is it?
I think it's a charge.
No. I believe that's the wrong creature to charge. I think he wants to charge the Elemental because it's guaranteed 10.
I don't know. That's an extra 4.
Well, I guess yeah. That does mean that James is compelled to block that creature. So he has to block. So, all right, that was a charge.
It's 13. He's compelled to block
he
the
has
figure.
to block a 4-power creature, and he will still go to 1 life. So yeah, the charge. Okay.
Then he dies.
Oh,
That's
it.
it.
The wrong one. It becomes 5. And there it is.
Oh,
Wow.
He's like, I'm sorry, man.
All right. Well, the explosive power of Boris.
look at Dennis.
That reckless charge was right on time. That was exactly what Dennis
man.
needed. And he defeats James Wagner's Enchantress deck 2 games to 1.
I like